to war after day 4.
Stay with me, because we've got some breaking news now. Israeli media reports, various Israeli media outlets reporting that 13 Israeli captives being held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip have been released now to the International Committee of the Red Cross. If correct, that signals the beginning of a sequenced process now in which, as we saw on Friday, those captives will be taken by the International Red Cross to a medical facility, checked over, then flown by Israeli military aircraft to an airbase in the south of Israel, and eventually finding their way to Al-Shiba, I believe, hospital in Tel Aviv. We await confirmation of those reports, but it does appear that the second phase of captive release is underway. Marwan indicating that a 2-hour delay has not necessarily amounted to any major hiccup in the process. I bring to you what I mentioned earlier about Egypt suggesting yesterday that it's hearing positive signals from all sides that they may be willing to continue this process, at least for another couple of days. The negotiators, of course, will be wanting to announce that as soon as possible. A sense of momentum, buying a little bit more time for some of those moves that you were discussing in the international community to take hold.
My understanding is that the Qataris are now more intensively involved in discussions than the Egyptians and the Americans. And my understanding is that over the weekend, President Biden himself is getting personally involved in seeing where this thing going through. Of course, the Americans want to know how many more Americans or dual nationality are being released or will be released. And if not all of them, then maybe the 4 days will be extended to 5, 6, and so on and so forth. So I think what we're seeing, especially also judging from what you just said now, the breaking news, is that the pilots are working. The first day, the second day, probably we're seeing the process. We're seeing a well-oiled machine now starting to move forward. And I think a lot of the people, including a good segment of the public opinion in Israel, as well as in the United States, would like to see this extended, would like to see more captives, more hostages released, would like to see more Palestinian prisoners released. And clearly, there is, at least on the part of certain Europeans at this point in time, the majority of the Arab and the Muslim world, and I think much of the world would like to see a ceasefire, would like to see the so-called humanitarian pauses move to be more of a temporary or a permanent ceasefire. I think that's the general direction. It's not to the liking of Netanyahu or his generals, but I think as far as the generals are concerned, they just want a decision either way, right? Because what they don't want is to be stuck like they are today. That does not work well for any military. So either they're going to so-called continue with the mission, achieve the objectives, whatever they are. At this point, they're becoming more like pipe dream, or withdraw.
We'll come back to you in a moment. We're going to go to Sarah Khairat now in Tel Aviv to give us more on that breaking news that we heard. Sarah, are you hearing any more on these reports that 13 Israeli captives have now been handed over to the ICRC?
Yeah, Israeli media is reporting sources, but nothing has officially been confirmed. What we have seen, though, is that it's also quoting Egyptian media as saying that they had received a list of 14 names. So really, we're seeing 13 and 14. Again, no, those two numbers are yet to be confirmed. And until we actually see those videos, which will likely, if we go by what happened yesterday, Hamas did release videos showing those held captive being released. Now, what we know is that they apparently have been now handed over from Hamas to the Red Cross. We've also heard reports by the media that they are all from one area, which is Be'eri, which is the place where the attack on October 7 happened. One of the places where a lot of those were killed. That's where where a lot of these people will be from, and they will be sent to a different hospital. Again, reports to the one from yesterday, which was a children's hospital. Interestingly, those captives yesterday were all but one from another area, another southern town with just close to Be'eri. So again, still developing story. We have a rally here that's happening where many expected to come here, thousands in fact, and there will be performances behind us, while there are also big screens that will be following. Everyone will be following the situation, and we're seeing people walking around on their mobile phones, just as we saw yesterday, as people wait to see those captives handed over through Rafah crossing via Egypt to a specialist Israeli unit. That's what was said yesterday. They are specialized in these kinds of situations with medical professional help that will check them medically first before they are then crossed over through the border crossing, as we saw yesterday, by bus, taken to an Israeli military base and then helicoptered to the hospitals. We've also been seeing Israeli media reporting that the families of those held captive have already been informed to make their way to either the one hospital or a number of hospitals. But so far we're being told that it's just to one hospital. Again, this is a moving story, so that information is trickling through and nothing is yet confirmed.
And Sarah, just to explain to viewers, the main picture on our screen beside you there is of Beitunia crossing. As it appears the Israeli captive release has now taken place, it means, of course, in train that the Palestinian prisoner release will also take place at that Beitunia crossing in the coming hour or two, perhaps, based on what happened on Friday night. Immense relief, I imagine, where you are, Sarah. There will have been some concern about the delay.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to say that we're also hearing again now that they're saying 13 people, 13 captives, not 14. So until we officially confirm it, but it seems that has changed once again to 13. Going back to your question, of course, emotions here have been very high. People are saying that they now feel a little bit more hopeful. There had also been reports in Israeli media earlier saying that there could be a potential, they're actually quoting Egyptian sources saying that there could be a potential extension to that ceasefire, that based on all parties requesting or looking towards that same direction. But then another Israeli media outlet then quoted a senior official, without giving names, saying that that's highly unlikely to be declared or decided on, at least certainly this early in the 4-day pause, and that would probably be something they would discuss closer to the end of the 4-day pause. But going back, we know that Hamas has said that they would be looking to release more captives. There's also reports again just in the last couple of hours saying that they've managed to locate more of those captives, because Hamas has said when the war started on Gaza, it seems that the captives were taken to different locations, and some of them have been held by Islamic Jihad. So now they're saying, according to Israeli media, it seems that Hamas is saying that they have located more, 10 to 20 was the number given, and that they could potentially then be able to release more. We know Hamas has said that it was willing to release not just women and children, but look to release past that 4-day males. They said it would not include any of the Israeli soldiers. And we also know on the other side that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said one of the war goals is to bring all of them back, and that he would potentially consider extending it. For every 10 captives, they would get an extra day of pause in fighting, an extra day of ceasefire. So again, all speculative, it's all up in the air. But what I can tell you from this square that's become known as Hostage Square, because the families gather here and so do their supporters, they've said they will continue to hold the rallies here, and certainly thousands are expected to attend today, where some of those families of those captives will be speaking later on.
OK, Sarah, I know we'll be back talking to you as events unfold during the evening. Thanks for that for the moment, Sarah Khairat.